We just saw the reveal of Gredora as well as her new mechanic, and we might just got our hands on the first control deck in Vanguard that isn't Link Joker's lock mechanic.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got a very exciting one as we finally got the reveal for Mega Colonies' Gredora. This was a card that we've been waiting for quite some time, because we knew that with this card we also got a new type of mechanic, a new token or a new type of card style, and today we finally got a glimpse of what this is and how it's going to work, and it's actually looking really interesting. But on top of that, we also got a whole plethora of new promo cards, and some of them are actually really good, and we even got a extra leak of some sort about the upcoming set for Nubatama, where we've got something that concerns Shiranui Borough, aka the new VR. The first information that we've got today is of course the set release date for the English side of VBT10 Phantasma Dragon Aeon, and this is of course the set for Luard as well as the new Mega Colony stuff and everything inside it, and we finally know that this set is going to drop for us on October the 30th. So basically what I assume at the beginning of the month we have a set, and at the end of the month we have a set, so it's not gonna clutter up the month like some of us thought with two sets in a month. It's basically the same like any other difference between certain sets. Now with that, let's dive into the new cards that we've got for us, and we're gonna start with the promo packs as there are quite a lot here, but also a lot of interesting stuff before we're gonna dive into the new main bulk of the Mega Colony cards. And we're gonna start off with this new Angel Feather Grade 1, which is actually very similar to an already existing Angel Feather cards, and currently I have no official names for them, so I'm just gonna leave them blank until maybe I get the official translation while doing the editing in post-production for this video, then you see it on the screen. Otherwise, there's no name for it as I cannot really translate this. So, its skill of this grade 1 is act on regular circle cost. Put this unit into your soul and swap a unit card in your hand with a card in your damage zone. This ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once a turn. Put it face up into your damage zone. So basically this is a haste deal that has the hard once per turn restriction that we've seen on the main and all the other cards. So why is this card in my opinion good? Well, the reason for this is that haste deals on place. This isn't on place. So if you can keep reoccurring this card on the field, you can keep reusing her effect turn after turn. One such a deck that this works really well with is Malkuth Malak. And Malkuth Malak's main resource is Soul. So the fact that this card goes into Soul actually works wonders with Malkuth Malak. And the deck does use quite a lot of counterblast. So the fact that this card allows you to manipulate the damage zone, which isn't really something the deck does on a lot. So having this card that actually gives you access to the damage zone is quite huge. But because this card, unlike Haste Deal, doesn't cost you counterblast, this actually is a counter charge in disguise. So this can be really good with Malkuth Malak, that then can utilize the counterblast, can also reoccurs this card onto the board turn after turn, and can keep using the soul for its own ability or for other cards to also use soul. So I think this card might be really good for the Malkuth Malak deck, and potentially in any other Angel Feather deck that want to utilize this card, as this is an effective counter-charging card, unlike most other Angel Feather cards that basically gives you a net 0 on your counterblast effects because you use counterblast to put something face up. So a really good, nice addition. Then the second promo that we've got, and this is arguably the most busted promo in this whole series, as we've got this Shadow Paladin grade 1 support card, and its abilities are auto. When discarded from your hand during your turn, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, put up to 1 card from among them into your drop zone, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So this allows you to have some control over what you're going to set up for your drop zone. AKA, this works fine with Claret, and this can trigger off of the multiple support cards for Claret Sword, the grade 2s that allows you to discard cards. You can discard this one. It also synergizes with the grade 3 Searcher. If you need to discard it, you can discard this one. So it helps you with that. But the real value comes in its second skill, as that is continuous from drop zone When this card would be bound from your drop zone by the ability of your Clerics or Dragon, so specifically Clerics or Dragon, if you have 7 or more grade 1 cards in your bind zone, this card is regarded as 7 grade 1 cards. So basically, this card can single-handedly pay for the restand cost for Clerics or Dragon. The only thing you need to do is already paid up 7 grade 1s beforehand. So if you could restand Clerics or Dragon the normal way, then all the following turns, you just need to bind this single copy of this grade 1 and you can restand your Vanguard. That is huge. This is really, really good for Clerics or Dragon, as now they can consistently keep restanding without needing to flood their decks with excessive amount of grade 1s and actually can put more emphasis on power. You can still run a whole range of grade 1s if you want to go that route, but you don't necessarily have to do that with the inclusion of this grade 1. And this grade 1 also helps you with filtering those grade 1s into your drop zone, so it's basically a win-win scenario. Then the next promo that we've got is one for Murakumo, as we've got this grade 2, and its ability is Auto on Vanguard Circle. When placed, costs countable as 1, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as one of your units, call to the Irregular Circle, and shuffle your deck. So this is just a generic +1 on the field. It copies something. It depends on what type of units you want to copy. It could give you access to some combo potential or some extra plays. Interesting enough, it can copy itself, so you can call another one to the field, which is similar to other things we've seen, like Spellhound, for example. But the reason why you want to copy itself during those turns is because of its second ability, which is Continuous Irregular Circle. During your turn, if you have another unit with the same card name as this unit gets power plus 10k. So if you write it as a Vanguard Circle and you copy itself, the rearguard version is going to be a 19k attacker or beater, which is actually pretty nice for the early game aggressive play, as it also can beat over defensive trigger if you're not up against force grade 2s. But it also synergizes with Yuga, as it copies all of the same names, so it still gains the power. It also synergizes with Yashui to some extent, with the grade 2 that can mill anything, because the grade 2 can mill this card from the deck, it gains the name, then Yashui can copy her with this new unit, so this unit then be called to the field, and because you have another copy of this card onto the field, it gains a 10k, so you can have a more aggressive unit onto the board or in your deck for Yashui or Yasue. I'm not sure if that's good enough for Yasue, but it's probably interesting. It's a nice addition for Murakumo. How good it's going to be, not sure, but it's nice. Then something that is actually really nice, and in my honest opinion should have been in the actual set, is this new grade 3 support card for Cosmic Hero Grand Gallop for Dimension Police, as we've got this Cosmic Hero, and I think its name is Hell Tiger, and its ability is Auto Irregular Circle. At the end of the battle that it attacked, while boosted, if you have a Vanguard with Cosmic Hero in its card name, so it's not only limited to Grand Gallop, it can be any Cosmic Hero, cost Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit. So this card allows you to multi-attack with this grade 3. It doesn't sound that amazing, but with Grand Gallop being able to power your rear guards, that's actually quite huge. Because if you got 4 criticals on your Vanguard, that means this grade 3 will be 28k double crit on its own. So if you boost it, that's probably 36 double crit, and then it restands as another 28k double crit. And if you got triggers, you could pass it onto this unit, making more pressure. And this is actually a card that, in my honest opinion, the Grand Gallop deck needed to actually make it viable for its own generic mechanic that isn't solely relying on cheese factors of either black or the whole restand combination that we have with the rares, those bunny robot girls, which names I cannot remember off the top of my head, but this should have been in the set, if I'm going to be very honest. It's a nice addition. It's definitely good for the deck, and probably if you want to play the deck, I think you need these cards, probably 4 copies. But it's nice that he finally at least got it. Now another support card is a grade 2 for Dark Irregulars, which I think is called Phantasma Executioner, but I'm not 100% sure on this one. And its ability is act on rearguard circle, cost retire this unit, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and soul charge 2. So basically you trade 1 for 1 and you gain 2 soul. It's not bad. It's a nice field control option while also soul charging. It could synergize with various different abilities or different strategies in Dark Irregulars. Is it the most amazing card? Probably not, but you could run it if you needed extra control options and also more soul charging options if you really rely on a specific soul count and your deck is lacking the resources to do that. Now the final promo that we've got is for Aqua, which is actually a really nice Revan support card, as we've got this grade 1, which has the following abilities. Auto Vanguard Circle, when placed, cast discard a card from your hand and draw a card. This is a very generic skill, it's a nice consistency bump, but the main attraction is in second ability, which is Continuous Irregular Circle. If your opponent's Vanguard current power is different from its original power, this unit can attack from the back row. So this is basically to give more multi-attack to Revan, because the moment you use Revan's ability, your opponent's Vanguard is probably 7 to 8k, allowing this grid 1 to hit on her own. So you could actually attack with this thing first and to then start doing your multi-attack plays. It's actually a pretty interesting, nice grade 1. I think you have the room to actually play this card if you want to. So probably will be run at maybe a certain amount of copies, but that is only dependent if Revan is actually still relevant in the meta. So who knows, maybe this grade 1 will actually make them a little bit better. Now with those promos discussed, let's dive into the main bulk of this video, and those are the new Mega Colony cards for VBT10 Phantom Dragon Aeon. And we're gonna start off with the new marker card, the new mechanic from Mega Colony, which is going to be the Cradle marker. And if the name might sound strange to you, the kanji for the Japanese name can be read as Dark Cocoon, which makes a whole lot of more sense than Cradle. But names aside, what this marker does is very simple. It has two main effects. The first one is that the unit with a Cradle marker loses its original ability, gets its power reduced by its original power, and cannot boost or intercept. So basically what this does, it eliminates all the effects of the unit. So all the skills are removed. It also loses intercept or boosting, so that's also a secondary trait of the card. It can still attack, but units in the back row, they cannot boost, so they're basically duds. And they also lose their original power. So keep in mind, if a certain unit gains an extra amount of power passively, they might still hold some power potential. So the primary focus of this marker is to basically makes the rear guards useless. But it also has a secondary effect, which is when the unit with a Cradle marker is retired, you search your deck for up to one card with the same grade as that unit, review it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. But the important thing here is that the fighter that put the Cradle marker is the one that actually searches. So if I'm the Mega Colony player and I put these Cradle markers on my opponent's rear guards, they are then useless units. They basically can't do anything. If I can retire them, or my opponent retires them or calls units on top of them because it still affects as retires, I then get to search out specific cards from my deck, so I can get specific grade 3s from my Gredora cards or something like that out of my deck and actually add them to my hand. So my opponent doesn't benefit from this marker at all, and I just get all the advantage here. Now, of course, you want to know how you can put these cards into play, and that's actually very easy because we got a couple of cards that allow us to do that. And the first one we're going to look at is the new grade 3 supporter card, which is Intimidating Mutant Darkface. Its abilities are Auto and Vanguard Irregular Circle. When placed, cast discard a card from your hand, choose one of your opponent's rear guards without any Cradle marker and put a Cradle marker on it. So basically, on place, you trade one card from your hand to negate the effects of one of your opponent's cards. So it's somewhat a 1-for-1 trade, but not only that, if that card would get removed from the field, you then get to search out from your deck, which actually is a plus. Because you get a cycle, you get a card from your deck, but you discard a card, but your opponent also loses a card. So that's a +1 in card advantage. And because you can place this on whatever rear guard you want, you can actually search out the cards that you really need and put the mark on that specific grade and basically set up for potential future plays. But Darkface also has a second ability, which is Auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When it attacks a Vanguard, costs +1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards with a Cradle marker on it, retire it, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of that battle for each grade of the chosen unit. So this card allows you to effectively, proactively retire those units so you can get your search off. But not only that, you gain a lot of power, so you can also push for damage or a lot of shield value from your opponent's hand. And this can be easily a 23k attacker on its own because grade 2s are probably your main target. But if your opponent has a grade 3 on the board, you might as well just go for that, because then you can actually search out another Darkface, which then can allow you to call that from your hand the next turn to then do the whole thing over again. So that's already pretty interesting. So now we can see that not only this skill or this new mechanic is going to be defensive, it also has some offensive capabilities. Now, the second card that was revealed is a new RRR Grade 2 support card, which is Despoiling Mutant Sticky Bolas. And her abilities are Auto and Vanguard Irregular Circle. When placed, cost countable as 1. Look at the 6 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to a total of 2 cards with Darkface in their different card names from among them, and put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this is basically a somewhat upgraded version of Machining Mantis, because they both on place, countable as 1, check top 6 for a grade 3. Only Sticky Bolas can only search out Darkface cards. So we have the grade 3 support Darkface that we just talked about, and of course Gredora. But the added bonus for this restriction is that it can potentially search out 2 cards, both a copy of these different Darkface units, which can actually be really good because you want both those cards in your hand for different plays. So pretty good. But she also has a second ability, which is Auto and Rigor Circle. When it attacks, costs soul plus 1, and this unit gets power plus 6k until the end of the battle for each of your opponent's rear guards with a Cradle marker on them. If this unit's power is 20k or greater, draw a card. So this is basically your offensive aggro tool, as it just pumps up a lot of power, but potentially can give you a draw. And this draw potential is very easy to fulfill because you only need 2 markers onto the field to meet the 20k threshold, as 12k plus 9 is 21 and you're already there. And gaining 2 Cradle markers might sound tough with the previous skill of Darkface, but actually it's really easy to fulfill that thanks to Gredora. So let's take a look at Gredora herself. As here we have the new VR Evil Governor Darkface Gredora, and her abilities are Act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost countable as 1, choose up to 2 of your opponent's rearguards without any Cradle markers, and put a Cradle marker on each of them. So with this skill alone, you already fulfill the condition for the grade 2 to actually draw. So you can see there's a lot of value engine going on here, with actually gaining defensive options while also nullifying your opponent's field, and potentially be very aggressive with either the high beat power of the grade 2 as well as Darkface, the grade 3, that allows you to retire stuff and gain even more power. But Gredora also has a second ability, which is also more in theme of the aggressive nature of the deck, as its skill is Auto and Vanguard Circle. When it attacks, cost retire a rearguard, that's your rearguard because it's a cost, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3, call to the rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. If you called, that unit and this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. So this one allows you to multi-attack a bit. And because you retire one of your units, you basically make room on the board where you're going to call that grade 3. And because it's specifically searched out grade 3s, we actually have some really solid targets. Of course, the first target that comes to mind is the supporting grade 3 Darkface, which then allows you to put another Cradle marker onto the board to basically put your opponents in a more awkward spot. But you can even extend this a little bit, as we got a common grade 3 from the very first set for Mega Colony, which on place allows you to restand a rested unit. So if we place that, we can actually restand our other column and then swing again. And if that other column was the grade 2 with on attack potentially draw, then we could actually get some more card advantage going on while still applying a lot of pressure against our opponent. So overall, this deck is really interesting, as it does have a lot of offensive power, but also a lot of interesting control options with these markers. And everything works around these markers because these markers empowers the specific offensive options. Of course, there are some problems here because these new cocoon markers or these cradle markers actually targets rearguard. So if you're up against a deck that can empty their board via any type of skill, think of Silverthorns or Night Rose, that can clear their board before it's the end of their turn, then this deck doesn't really have a target to put those markers onto the board. Luckily, this deck isn't completely reliant on these markers because Gredora's second ability will still activate. Those other cards can still do their thing, they can still push for power, and these are just the first cards that we've got. There is a very likely chance that this deck either has more generic cards that can help you just push for power if you cannot rely on these Cradle markers, but there might also be a chance that we've got specific cards that can be used during the guard step that allows you to create these markers defensively. Think of Balok that was in the Jira for Kagero that allows you to retire cards during your opponent's turn if you guard with that card effectively. There is a possibility that it might create that type of card for Mega Colony on a grade 1 or a grade 2 that needs to be placed from hand to activate that skill. I honestly don't think that that's too strong, because this Cradle mechanic isn't really that busted as a control option, but I definitely think if they want to make this deck actually viable and competitive against these annoying decks that can remove their board during their end turn, then I think such a card might be needed for Mega Colony to actually make splashes in the meta landscape. But besides that, I think it's actually looking pretty interesting and pretty solid on itself, because those aren't the only decks in the format that keeps countering these playstyle, and there are definitely specific units that can work around this mechanic. Think of Akatsuki Hanzo that can just bounce everything back. They can still bounce those units with those markers from the field back to their hand, and that means because they weren't retired, the Mega Colony player actually doesn't get the draw off of it. So there are definitely specific units that counter these marker mechanic, or Gredora to be precisely, but having hard counters to a deck isn't per se a bad thing, because that helps with just balancing these specific decks. If there is no hard counter or there's no way to play around it, then you got a problem in your hand, and then you actually have something like luck. So yeah, let's not do that again. This is actually looking pretty good and healthy to a certain degree, which I am all for it, and I hope they're gonna give this actual solid good support. Then before we end this video, there's one more interesting tidbit that I want to give to you guys, as there was a image going around the internet where somebody made a screenshot of a magazine where we saw something interesting, because we saw this image. And as you can see in this image, we see Shiranui, but also Tavis. But what's interesting here is that the artwork of this Shiranui is a different artwork than the artwork that we saw when they revealed Shiranui Oboro as a VR for the upcoming set. So this is probably a confirmation, or a soft confirmation, that the old Shiranui Grade 3 might also return as a double R or triple R in that set for Nubatama. So I'm very curious of what direction they're going to go with, and I cannot wait till we see the new support is also going to revolve a bit around Evo decoy tokens, so I'm very curious of what direction they're going to take. Also, one more interesting thing that I almost forgot, we also finally saw the artwork for the new Victor VR for the upcoming set, where of course this is also a thing, as here we have the new sleeve artworks, and as you can see in the middle of that we see Victor, and I'm honestly very pleased with the artwork for Victor. It doesn't disappoint at all. So yeah, I'm very excited for that set. But before we go into those specific reveals, we still got some new stuff for Phantom Dragon Aeon left to discuss, as this Friday we're going to get the reveal for the new Spike Brothers VR Rising Nova, and next week on Tuesday we're going to get the reveal for Gaia Emperor. So we're going to go fast through these VRs, because after these two reveals, the only cards left for the big ones are the two VRs for Shadow Paladin, Phantom Blaster Overlord, and Luard himself. So with that said, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new promos that we've got for all the different clans. Do you think some crazy cards are revealed in this promo pack? And also, what do you think of the new Cradle mechanic, or this new marker mechanic, this cocoon thing for Mega Colony, as well as the supporting cards around for Gredora herself? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always guys, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply do that by going over to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.